What's going on, YouTube? So Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion, and famous quotes. And he has some quotes. Sometimes I'll talk about them. So from Tim out during the month, I might go back again. Here we go. He said, if and suppose, two small words, but nobody has ever been able to explain them. I like this because if and suppose. If is always, well, if only. But you can't really put it in the context because you didn't quite get it done. Suppose it happens. Supposedly. You use certain words and you think they're going to carry all the way over and they don't. One thing that he was getting at is that so many obstacles and perils that he faced as a black man fighting when he fought. He was truly a guy that was everything that they want to say as a typecast. It's a big, strong black fighter who was scary and scared of some white fighters, and white women loved him, and he was living his life like he was a rock star, movie star, pop star. As a matter of fact, that's why they came with the Jack Johnson Man's Act, cause state lines and all that, and why you see all these ridiculous RICO charges and all this stuff right now. Because Jack Johnson was living the life. He didn't break any laws, except for being a black man who was just being himself. Could you imagine being that free? And knowing that he had the confidence, and they fought real long fights back then when he fought. Again, that boxing ring, you didn't have all the crews and to cut the tapes and whatnot. You brute force to brute force. And he was a brute, you know. They downplay him in the significance when you talk about the fighters because when Joe Louis came around, they wanted someone else crossover. And that's no diss to Joe Louis because the Brown Bomber was one of the greatest fighters ever. However, that Jack Johnson was scary black. He was scary. And they didn't want that imagery. They were afraid. That's how they've always sold the imagery. Oh, he's going to hurt us. Oh, he's going to. Oh, not him. Oh. But this man was articulate. He had quotes. This one is something to think about. If and suppose, two small words, but nobody has ever been able to explain them. We sit there all the time with the most simplest things, the most fundamentalist things, the things that we think are supposed to be easy to access and to cipher, and yet we struggle. Why is that? The metaphor in that. Why do we struggle so much? Why do we have such a hard time with the most simplest things, but yet if something is complex and complicated, we think we Einstein in a half? Why does that work like that? How does it work like that? And who told us that it was cool to just operate like that? It just really is the power of the brain and the human reaction. But that's what we go by. That's how we go. That's what we know. So we look for things that will make some sense and that hope that they will sustain. You know, we hope that they are deep. We hope that they are enriched and engaged. That's what we hope. We just don't know. We only can hope that it comes to being as such, but we just don't know. We just don't know. But Jack Johnson spoke about like those simplistic things, but no one ever had an answer for. If and suppose. What would happen if we had an answer for that? Then everything else would fall into place. We're still awaiting. But we know he was a one of a kind fighter and a man who juggled at so many ends in a incredible stratosphere. He was polarizing for his day and his time, and he's left a lasting mark. And he was a man of quotes. Please hit like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for another. Share it if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm a one-time. Peace.